as a leader of minority. Well, clearly, he knew he holds no capacity to fire Honorable Junet Mohammed as a minority leader. In any case, the only person he can fire is Robert Mbui and Makali Mulu. So Makali Mulu cannot purport that this government suffers from trust deficit. And Makali, you know, if there was any trust deficit, you know which people Kenyans have not trusted over the years. It has not been the William Ruto administration. You know which people.
Honorable, are you done?
Honorable Speaker, you know, for any government to know whether it suffers from trust deficit from the people, because governments are put in place by the people, the only barometer to measure that trustometer you can use is elections. The recent by-elections, those on November 27th, all the positions were taken by this government, the broad-based government. The recent elections this month, last month, the 4 elections from Isiolo to Vihiga to Mbere, all of them clean sweep by the broad-based administration. This is not a government that suffers from trust deficiency or trust deficit. It is the disunited opposition that people cannot trust with anything, even leadership positions in the opposition.
Honorable Makali Mulu, you want to...
You know, Honorable Speaker, I've realized that when serious brains of this House start to make comments, we get this kind of points of order, so that you disorganize us, not to push our agenda. What I'll do, Honorable Speaker, I don't know why my friend Kimani keeps on dragging the name of Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka into this House. Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka is not seated here. Every time you stand, is this the animal which scares you, or what is happening? Because if it doesn't scare you at all, why do you keep on mentioning him? Honorable Speaker, let me get to my second point, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm helping this report because I'm a very, very patriotic Kenyan, Honorable Speaker. And many times when I make my recommendations here, as a scholar, I want to add value to this kind of debate so that whatever comes out, it will help this country. And Honorable Speaker, even as I talk, and as Honorable Ndidi makes contribution, we know very well. Yesterday there was a very clear statement that when the broad-based government is together, this House has to say yes. We are aware of that statement. So what we are going to do is we are going on record so that things can remain that way. We know when you come together as a broad-based government, this is on paper will pass. But we must say the truth about this on paper. You might like it, you might not like it. Now the thing is, Honorable Speaker. The second issue I want to address, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of 3 items you have been mentioned here. And Honorable Chair, Finance, this is your report, it's not my report. You have discussed the issue of national security and how Safaricom contributes or plays a key role matters national security. You have discussed the issue of financial ecosystem and how Safaricom supports our financial ecosystem in this country. You have talked about the extensive networks Safaricom has in terms of dealers and agents, Honorable Speaker. Now, these 3 items, your report says you have put a provision in this seasonal paper that they will be safeguarded, which is a very good statement. To me, that is a necessary provision. It is not sufficient, Mr. Chairman. Why am I saying so? Honorable Speaker, look at Safaricom PLC. It's a company, it's a corporate entity where we have shareholders. Now, with this being a corporate entity with shareholders, who is a majority shareholder? It's Fondocom company. It will be 54.9%. In game theory, in a situation where you are a player and you are a dominant player, you call the shots. So assuming we sign this thing, Honorable Speaker, and tomorrow Safaricom says we are not making profits in Kenya, being the main shareholder, we want to relocate our company to Ethiopia. Will you stop them? So some of the things we are doing here are good, Honorable Speaker, but we are saying, Honorable Speaker, they are not sufficient. If we want to help Kenyans, we must make sure that before we finalize this session of paper, Honorable Speaker, we have clear provisions to ensure that whatever we are discussing about national security, issues of financial ecosystem, issues of our dealers and agents are properly protected. Because by the time this is on paper and the agreements will be signed, Honorable Speaker, it must be very clear, Honorable Speaker, that this information is properly captured. Otherwise, we will be saying that time, we didn't know. This is a company. If I don't make profits, I can say I close my company. If I close my company,
Honorable,
how do you tell me to employ employees when I'm not making profits?
Take your seat, Honorable Makali Mulu. The Honorable Kimani Kuri, I'm really avoiding points of order so that we can keep to the time for debates. What is out of order?
Yes, but Honorable Speaker, it is very important because this is a very phenomenal decision that's been made by the people of the Republic of Kenya, by this House. So it's very important that we put things in order. If you read, if the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu cared to read our report and what is provided for in the order paper, we are providing that there shall be express instructions in the share purchase agreement that will be contained in the Articles of Association and the Memorandum of Understanding for Safaricom PLC to safeguard the interests of the employees and to safeguard the interests of those agents. We have expressly provided for it, and it is one of the resolutions that this House will vote for. We're not just going to vote about the partial divestiture. We are saying we're not approving the share paper as it is. We are recommending that for it to be approved, then there must be express provisions in the share purchase agreement for the interests of safeguarding the matter of security of Safaricom being such a key infrastructure in terms of our security for the employees and for the shared prosperity of M-Pesa agents and all those agents. So it's expressly provided for in the order paper. And what this Honorable House, if the finding merit in our report approves, then it shall be contained in the share purchase agreement that will indeed be contained in the Articles of Association and the Memorandum of Understanding between Vodacom and Safaricom PLC and GOK.
Oh, you are right, the Honorable Kimani Kuri. I see what you are saying in the additional resolutions B 2, 5, and 6. But let us allow Honorable Makali Mulu, because
Honorable,
as you rightly say, Honorable Makali Mulu is enriching the report. He's actually not opposing the sale, if I hear him right.
Actually, what I was saying, Honorable Speaker, I'm aware of what is written here. But I'm looking at decision-making in a corporate entity where you have shareholders. How is it done? Because it will get to a point where the shareholders will have to make a decision. And in most cases, it is by voting. So I'm saying, assuming we'll have this policy document, or this on paper, Honorable Speaker, saying what we are saying, but the decision making in a corporate entity takes a different decision. So I'm saying, even before we make it official, Honorable Speaker, it is important we safeguard these issues we have written here. They are very important things, but the way they are now, as an economist, I see a necessary situation, not a sufficient situation. I'm pushing for the two committees before we finalize to put us into a sufficient position so that we are assured as Kenyans we will get value for this document. And in that case, Honorable Speaker, I really want to say, sale of Safaricom is not sale of a small goat in the market. It is sale of a big cow in the market. And a very fat cow. We cannot do it the way we want to do it, Honorable Speaker. It must be done in a very structured manner, in a manner where Kenyans are convinced that we are getting value for money. Let's avoid these side shows in the perennial year where we bring politics into it. This is a serious matter. With those remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to say those gaps must be addressed if we want to get it right. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity, and at the outset, let me make it clear that I support this sessional paper number 3 of 2026 on the partial divestiture of Safaricom PLC to the government of Kenya, by the government of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, it is important to note firstly that we just passed the National Infrastructure Fund here, and it has since been assented to by the President of the Republic of Kenya. Why are we doing this? We are doing it to achieve 3 main things. And this is not just about Safaricom. We also have a pipeline whose IPO has gone into the national Nairobi Security Exchange. Portland Cement, East African Portland Cement, is one such, Honorable Speaker. And we intend to achieve three things, which are very critical to us. Number one is to put infrastructure across this country without necessarily looking at the areas which are aligned to the government of the day, because that is exactly what we have been treated to since time immemorial. These infrastructure funds, which have since been ring-fenced, or rather will be ring-fenced, will make sure that each and every part of this country is developed, Honorable Speaker. Number two, we are looking at the power plants. This country only relies on 3,000 megawatts of power. We intend to move to 10,000 megawatts, Honorable Speaker, so that we avoid these issues of blackouts, which have pervaded our country each and every time. We are also going to look at easing our debt burden, Honorable Speaker. This country has consistently taken debts from these financial institutions, both locally and abroad. And the proceeds or these debts that we take do not respond to the country in its entirety. You have Eurobond, for example, that never made it to this country. You have monies from IMF and World Bank that have been only targeting particular regions to benefit out of infrastructure, Honorable Speaker. So these funds, National Infrastructure Fund, a fund that we have birthed as a house, has since been passed and is part of our laws now, is an act of Parliament, will now respond to these areas that have lagged behind, Honorable Speaker. Talking about Safaricom, my brother, Honorable Ndindi here, made a statement of fact that Safaricom last year generated 40 billion shillings in terms of profits, Honorable Speaker. Now, that is the collegiate Safaricom, the entirety of Safaricom that brought in 40 billion shillings. We are only looking at offloading 15% of that amount of money. So if you were to do your math, 15% is equivalent to 6 billion shillings that was generated by Safaricom last year. 6 billion shillings. Now, as a result of this divestiture, Honorable Speaker, we are going to get 244 billion shillings. 244 billion shillings out of 15% of Safaricom, Honorable Speaker. If, as a nation, we have to wait, and this is now mathematics, if we have to wait for the 15% to generate through the profits that my honorable colleague was talking about, then we have to wait 80 years to get 244 billion shillings. What will be the worth of 80 billion, or 244 billion shillings 80 years to come? Honorable Speaker, what we are doing is to offset these mature assets so that the country can have a rapid flight towards its growth. Instead of keeping them here with us and they're not generating enough, let us offload them. Look at what happened with pipeline, for example. Out of only the speculation of this offloading shares in pipeline, we already got 112 billion shillings out of the projected 106 billion. It was oversubscribed, Honorable Speaker. Pipeline, and I request you to add me just 1 minute. Pipeline gives this country 10 billion shillings annually, 10 billion in its entirety. If we have to wait for another 12 years to get the equal amount of money of 100...
You are added 1 minute to conclude.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. If we were to wait for another 12 years to get 112 billion shillings, if those profits are anything to go by, then this country will not develop. We are offloading mature assets to develop this country, to provide jobs to our youths, to address the issues of power, because we want not just the political power, but we want our houses to be powered. We want our factories to be powered. Through that, we are going to create jobs to the youths who are languishing out there. Many of them have papers, but they have nowhere to take those papers. But if President Ruto, together with his cabinet, are responding to the needs of Kenyans, and by the way, this is not the first sale of our own assets. We sold Telcom here. People who are now lecturing us were at the top echelons of those past administrations. We never raised any queries. What they are fearing now,
Honorable Jared Okello, the rulings of the Speaker are never reviewed in the manner you're proposing. The Honorable Dick Maungu will now be recognized to speak.
Thank you, Speaker. I would request Jared to give me the points so that I can speak for him. But all the same, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this great report tabled by the committee and actually appreciate FCPA, the chair of the Finance Committee, Mr. Speaker, because before us here is a very comprehensive statement, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've heard the arguments put across. It's unfortunate that some of these arguments are subjective, Mr. Speaker, rather than being objective and realistic, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the sale of Safaricom, as has been said, has not been done in a secret. Neither is it been done in the cover of darkness. This is a matter that has been subjected to public participation. This is a matter that has been subjected to people's ideas, Mr. Speaker. And what was laid before this House this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, is a comprehensive report that comes from what was collected out of about 30 counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by looking at the price that has been captured, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on page 7 of this report, the chair has come up with various valuation models that have been used to arrive at the price given today, Mr. Speaker. And I wonder, Mr. Speaker, I heard people say that this price is undervalued, but could not have the audacity or the strength to table what models they were using to give what they were proposing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, looking at page 7, we have market approaches, which talks about two great models that were used, Mr. Speaker, to value the share at given. We have, Mr. Speaker, income approaches that are supposed to actually forecast the income to be received many years tomorrow or many years after, Mr. Speaker, what is their value today, Mr. Speaker? And this therefore brings to point that what price has been given, Mr. Speaker, is competitive. And what we are seeing today is just a matter of being subjective rather than being objective to the point, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one thing as to why I support this is because what is the destiny of these funds? Last week, Mr. Speaker, we were debating a very innovative fund, the National Infrastructure Fund. And I did say, Mr. Speaker, that Albert Einstein once said that you cannot do the same thing the same way and expect different results. As a country, we have been doing the same thing the same way, Mr. Speaker, yet expected to have a different result. This, to me, was a very creative, a very innovative, a very bold move, Mr. Speaker, that will put all these funds in one kitty to help us offload the budget, some of these small roads, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, the destiny of the fund, as has been captured, goes into the kitty of the National Infrastructure Fund. Just the other day, the KPC IPO, Mr. Speaker, was very successful. I wonder why people say it was not successful, Mr. Speaker, when we did so, it had an oversubscription of 5%, meaning at 105%, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I look at the partner that you're talking about, and you're talking about Vodafone, Mr. Speaker, not just any other company, Mr. Speaker. This partner has, for the last many years, held 40% of the shares, Mr. Speaker. This partner has provided strategic leadership. This partner has provided good governance at the board level, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, looking at what we are offloading as a government, Mr. Speaker, to this very partner, to me, is a very bold and strategic way, Mr. Speaker, that will go a long way, Mr. Speaker, to bring in the strategic thought, the strategic direction of Vodafone, Mr. Speaker, to help us steer this, Mr. Speaker. As a member said, Safaricom is not just any share. It is actually a very strategic asset. It is a very bold asset. It's a very lucrative asset, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also support because of capitalization of dividends, Mr. Speaker. It is true that we have streams of dividends that are supposed to accrue to this, to this company, Mr. Speaker. And we are from the chair, he is proposing that we are going to receive these dividends which have been which have been valid to date, Mr. Speaker, in advance to help us sort some of the things we have. What we call securitization, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm one proponent who supports securitization because it has helped us sort very many stalled projects in this country, including one in my constituency that has disturbed this country for the last 14 years, Mr. Speaker. As we speak, because of securitization, Mr. Speaker, a road that had been stuck in Luanda for the last 14 years is ongoing, Mr. Speaker, because the contractor was paid and the road is on course. And therefore, anybody who actually fights securitizing these dividends, Mr. Speaker, does not think good for this country, Mr. Speaker. And lastly, I look at the staff. It has been said clearly there's no redundancy. Mr. Speaker, the staff have been protected and secured. And therefore, I stand to support, Mr. Speaker, and say that this is a good move and the country should move on to secure the same. I support.
The Honorable Timothy Toroitich. In the meanwhile, may the majority leader approach the Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important motion. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I wish to state very clearly that I support the letter and the intent of divestiture in Safaricom PLC by the government of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, for this country to develop, for Kenya to develop, Honorable Speaker, we must adopt innovative financial models. Honorable Speaker, for this country, we've always talked about Singapore. For us to reach Singapore, we must be able to be creative as a country. We must be able to adopt models that take us to Singapore, as we've always said, so that we can be able to be at the level of other Asian tigers we've always envied as a country. Honorable Speaker, the sale of shares in Safaricom, the sale of shares in Kenya Pipeline. Honorable Speaker, I am very happy because as a House, Honorable Speaker, recently we passed the government-owned enterprises law. And we said, Honorable Speaker, that government-owned enterprises, government-owned entities must be run as commercial entities and so that they can make profit. Honorable Speaker, there is absolutely no reason as a House for us to get money from exchequer to fund these government-owned entities. Honorable Speaker, what makes me happy is that what comes out of the sale of these shares is that we shall be able to invest these shares in the NIF, the National Infrastructure Fund. Honorable Speaker, we have a law to ensure that the monies that we obtain from these shares are invested in a fund that will eventually be able to be invested in catalytic infrastructure and therefore will fast track that. Honorable Speaker, wait.
What is out of order, Honorable Dorothy? Order. That is Honorable Dorothy Kiara. What is out of order?
Honorable Speaker, I stand on standing order 95. There is no quorum in this House, Honorable Speaker.
The bell be rung.
95.
Ring the bell for 10 minutes.
95.
Order, honorable members. The bell can be stopped. It has been rung for 10 minutes. Honorable Timothy Toroitich, you have a balance of 2 minutes when this matter will be next scheduled. I also want to commend the Honorable Harrison Kombe, the Honorable Wanjiku Muya, the Honorable Geoffrey Wandeto, more particularly, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, the Minority Whip, for staying in the House this late to contribute to this motion. This adjournment has been necessitated by the need to allow as much contributions as possible against the standing resolutions. And so, if time is extended under procedural motion to tomorrow for further debate in this motion, I direct that those members who have been waiting, who have been mentioned, be granted priority to make their contribution for this, to this debate. Honorable members, the time being 20:19 p.m., the House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, the 12th day of March, 2026, at 2:30 p.m.
Hebu tusikilize yanayoendelea kwa sasa.
Full charade meant to hoodwink the public that the MOU had been implemented when it is obvious to all Kenyans that nothing could be further from the truth. This fact became apparent in a most embarrassing manner when attendees led by the Governor Cecily Mbarire openly challenged the President on the contents of the so-called report. Observers would also have noted that the President purported to extend the mandate of the committee by another 60 days in the same meeting where Dr. Oburu Odinga had earlier argued that there was no time limit in the implementation of the MOU. The confusion that Kenyans witnessed at KICC yesterday is enough proof that the so-called broad-based team are aware that they are lying not only to Kenyans but to themselves. We want to also make it clear that the ODM-PG as an organ has no powers under the party constitution to make decisions such as they purported to make yesterday. You will recall that prior to and during the signing of the now expired MOU, it was the party's National Executive Committee under the leadership of the late Raila Odinga that processed and superintended the process. The purported extension is therefore ultra-vires, unconstitutional, null and void. Be that as it may, we have also held the position that whether or not the MOU had been implemented cannot be a matter of conjecture. If abductions and extrajudicial killings stopped after the signing of the MOU, we would all know because we all live here. If counties have received 450 billion shillings in shareable revenue in the current financial year, we would all know. If indeed Ruto and his government honored their pledge to respect the identity and integrity of political parties, it would be obvious to all of us. Today, we wish to present to Kenyans the true report detailing the failures in implementation of the 10-point agenda, breaking down each agenda item and the falsehoods used to wrap them. Indeed, we have noticed that at the tail end of its mandate, the committee suddenly started traveling across the country, purporting to be conducting public participation. Yet the resolution to the 10 agenda items lay squarely with the regime of President William Ruto. Our expectation was that the committee would be domiciled at State House, seeking answers there on a daily basis. We present this report to seal any gaps that the committee and the regime may use to fool Kenyans that all is well in our nation. The decline in the national values espoused in the preamble to our constitution is a grave cancer that cannot be cured with short-term painkillers. The nation must confront these failures and hold the government accountable on each count. We are obliged as leaders to rise to the occasion and reject attempts to lull us into slumber with lies packaged in beautiful gift wrappers. Thank you very much. That is a statement on behalf of this team. And at this particular moment in time, we will go straight to the report so that we are able to present our view of the state of implementation of that MOU. I would like to invite on stage the Member of Parliament, Suba South, SG Azimio, Majority Leader, National Assembly, the Honorable Karoli Omondi. Thank you. Karoli, the meeting has given you 15 minutes to go through the report. Thank you.
Asante sana, Bwana SG. Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here this morning, and I have with me what was launched yesterday here and what we are launching today. And the difference is amazing, not just in terms of presentation, but in terms of the contents and details. 15 minutes, try and make good use of them. Let me start by explaining why we feel it is important that as Linda Mwananchi, we must also give a report on the 10-point agenda. First, we are here to defend Baba's legacy. That is why we are doing this. It is so important for us. And I think it is important for Kenya and those who have been with Baba all along in his quest for a better Kenya. This particular document has Baba's signature. So it is important that people get an accurate, truthful, independent, impartial, and correct report on what is being done about Baba's commitment to Kenyans when he signed the 10-point agenda. We are here to make sure political fraud is not committed on Kenyans in the name of Baba. That is why we are here. We must protect Baba's legacy. That is our duty as members of ODM, as members of Linda Mwananchi, as people who worked with Baba. Secondly, whether it is NADCO or whether it is the 10-point agenda, these documents were made in the name of the people. So there must be a people's report, not what you saw yesterday, a conspiracy of some sort. The people themselves must give a verdict. And what we are going to give here today is the people's report on what they think on the implementation of NADCO and the 10-point agenda. And finally, we all have national values in our constitution. There must be accountability. When leaders make certain public commitments, they must be held accountable. What we are trying to do here is to hold those who signed this to be accountable to Kenyans. So people may ask, how did we get about in compiling this report? What was our methodology? We did exactly what is expected in a situation like this. We had broad surveys, we contacted people by phone, by email, we asked questions, we engaged with the public. What do you think has been achieved on these particular issues? NADCO had 10 points, 10-point agenda had 10 points. So Kenyans have given us feedback. It is this feedback that we are now communicating to the rest of the world so that people can understand this. We looked at government records. We reviewed records in Parliament, which bills have been passed that were supposed to be anchored on either NADCO or on the 10-point agenda. We looked at what has happened in the executive. How are they conducting executive business? Are they complying with the 10-point agenda? We looked at the judiciary. What decisions have been made in terms of the rule of law and constitutionalism? And we looked at the reports of other independent organizations, especially those in the civil society like Oxfam and the rest of them. So what we are presenting to you here is not something we just sat somewhere and created. It is a product of a consultative process, a scientific process, and with very good methodology. Now, how does our report relate to what was released yesterday? Let me start by telling you people the joke of the miniskirt. How do you define a miniskirt? A miniskirt should be long enough to cover the subject matter, but short enough to arouse interest. So if you look at what was launched yesterday, it is inimically short on substance. In fact, Mheshimiwa Obadia Barongo and Clive Gisairio here was laughing at their report on leadership and integrity. And since we are not propagandists, we are just people who like to give people correct information. If you look at their report on page 13, this is the report on leadership and integrity. It has 2 paragraphs. First paragraph has 15 words. Second paragraph has 35 words. 50 words on leadership and integrity. So their report is short on imagination. It is short on facts, short on truth. It is basically something that is designed to mislead and misinform. If you look at ours, you can count the words for yourself, the paragraphs, so that you get an accurate representation of what it is. Secondly, we are here to separate facts from fiction. There was a lot of fiction yesterday. And we want Kenyans to get involved in politics with facts. So we will present to you the facts, and you make your judgment. And we will invite other players, civil society, to make also their own report. So you can compare their report, our report, and the civil society's report, and other people's reports, and your own report and your own judgment as a Kenyan. You must also understand that this particular agenda was time-bound. There were key performance indicators which were to drive the political engagement that was being mooted between UDA and ODM. I use the word mooted informally because it was not yet agreed. Baba had made it very clear there'll come a time when we review the union based on these key performance indicators. Then we decide whether to proceed or to withdraw or to do something else. Yesterday we were being told that this was not time-bound, that this can be implemented ad infinitum until the world ends. And you saw there was a lot of confusion. You didn't know whether UDA was representing a report on their manifesto or they were doing the 10-point agenda. You didn't know where it started and where each ended. So we will not allow them to corner us, that they set their own exam, they write their own exam, they mark their own exam, they award themselves marks. We cannot allow them. That does not happen. So we are here as the people to give them a record. Now, this report, I'll just give you some highlights, and I'll not go into details because they'll all be presented. But let's take the issue of audit of the 2022 presidential elections, what we called opening the server. There was an item like that. No work has been done on that. To date, people are asking IEBC, and we are asking them again here. If you do not address the issue of technology, not just the technology itself, but whoever supplies that technology for purposes of the next general elections, then what have you achieved? That was here. It has not been done, and they were too afraid to address it there. Nobody talked about it, opening of the servers. Did you hear anything about that? Confidence in the IEBC. They bragged that IEBC has been reconstituted. But ask yourself the question, has the new IEBC inspired confidence in the people of Kenya? When there are questions on how the selection process was done, when there's ultimate suspicion of close personal and other connections between those who are put into IEBC and those who are holding high offices in government and influential positions even in ODM, there are issues that must be addressed. So we wish IEBC well, and we are going to support IEBC. But we cannot bury our heads in the sand that there are no credibility questions. So we need to discuss these things. The cost of living crisis. They talked a lot about cost of living crisis. But I want to ask you and ask Kenyans, do you feel better off today than you were 3 years ago? That is a question they ought to have answered there. Does your shilling buy you more today or less than it did 3 years ago? Those are the questions that people and wananchi want to know. We don't want to be told the inflation has dropped from here to here. When the inflation was up here, the cost of goods went up to that point. They've not come down. The incomes have not grown. So don't tell us about inflation, exchange rate, and all those things. The fundamental question, are Kenyans better off today than they were 3 years ago? And the answer to that is no. Compensation for victims of police brutality during demonstrations. It's not been done. We are told there'll be 2 billion. In the supplementary budget, it will be brought to the House. We will pass it. Who knows how they arrived at the 2 billion? Who knows the number of the victims? Who decided that a broken leg is worth this? Who decided that when you are raped, this is a compensation you should get? Who debated those issues? We don't know. The Victims' Compensation Fund has not been activated, we know that. What about justice? What about accountability? Yeah? Where is that question? Nobody talked about it, because to them, you beat somebody, you maim them, you rape them, you dismember them, then you give them cash. And then you tell them. And then they made a very curious statement that we need a law to protect victims of demonstrations. Where on earth? The Constitution already guarantees it. We don't need another law. That was euphemism for bringing a law to regulate demonstrations. Yeah? You heard that. So when you look at the report, those are the questions you should ask yourself. Corruption. This government is mute on corruption. They don't talk about it. I challenge you to tell me the last time you had a senior government official talking about corruption. Tell me when. Oxfam's report.
And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live here at Citizen Television. On the bench today, 3 senators talking about pre-election